Hi guys. In this section we're just going to keep continuing. We're going to start actually changing our geometry into a polygon so that we'll have a lot more control over creating some of the detail that you see in the character's picture, as well as making some really nice, cutout lines and edges and things like that. But before we do that, I want to get into the back section here and just make a couple of those little armor plates that it looks like are there, and they're going to be pretty easy to do. First thing we're going to do is just duplicate our character's back there, and we're going to bring that forward, and we're just going to cut up some of these plates. But before I do that, what I want to do is, you see how some of these lines are kind of angled back a little bit? We can actually mimic that for us to create better armor. It's really easy. So we're just going to drop this down a little bit, and then we're just going to grab some of the areas here, kind of more on the top of our tail, on our back, and we're just going to kind of push it backwards a bit. See how that started to work already? So I'm going to grab even more, and I'm just going to kind of push that back, and then I'm going to deselect the ones that are a little bit on the side. And then just kind of push that back and move it down just a little bit. You see how we're starting to make a little bit of the shape that you see drawn in there? So if I grab this set of lines, we can actually use our hull and push that forward. All but the back there, the little guy there. So we're just going to actually do it the hard way. Just grab the individual vertices. So we don't want the hull moving, or the back, the very back moving. Just going to push that forward like that. Alright. Let's go in here and fix this up. And we can just kind of cut a hole for now. We'll fix that all up later on. So you want something like that. Now we can actually get rid of our first duplicate that we did. Duplicate again. Bring this forward, and we're going to cut this up. So we're going to right click, select the ice palm there, that one. So say go every two almost. Go detach. We'll grab the long side as well. So you're going to kind of really slice and dice this up. Now we can go in, delete all the bottom. Oops. There we go. So basically what we're doing is we're making plates. So if we go shading, wireframe on shaded, you can see we can just separate these guys just a little bit. And we can bring them back into position. Really simple. Just go back down to your Z, translate. So they look something like that. Now we're going to make this a little bit wider while we have everybody selected, and I'm going to push up a little. You just want it sitting on top of that area that we already have. That's not too bad. So now we can go in and we can really look at our photo. So we don't really need the photo on the side there right now. So I'm just going to grab my side. I'm going to freeze transformation again just to make sure, because I want to move it out so that I can see it a little clearer. So I'm going to make this metal part right here. So I'm going to right click, select a vertex on that area. I'm going to grab these guys right here. And we're going to pull that forward. And this area is going to move up and forward a little bit as well. Kind of making like a car fender, I guess is probably the best way to describe it. just going to move that back. I'm going to hide my arms here because they're in the way. I don't want that touching on the back area here. Now again, this is still just blocking out. Once we convert this into polygons, we're going to be able to create some really awesome sharp edges around this little fendery area that we just created. So I'm going to go to the next guy. And again, we're just going to see what he looks like in the picture. There's like a main big piece here, which is the front part. He actually looks like he comes across some of these guys. So I'm going to pull this back even more. So he's going to go up and above the original one. You just have to make this area a little wider still. And then these little guys just have just a little bit more happening there. So we can see some plates there, and we'll do some plates on the bottom as well. So it looks like this is actually one whole piece. We'll come back to that. That's going to be easy enough to do. I'm just going to make this a little wider still. And put wireframe on my viewport here as well. It just makes life a lot easier to see what's happening. And this guy's going to be just a little bit above the one behind it again. Just by a little bit. Same with the next fella. Up. And last but not least, this little guy on the back. A little wider. And just kind of move up and just across the other little guy. Just make sure that the corner right there, you can use a rotate a bit. Is below the one behind it. So it's got protection there. This is all little things you guys will get good at more and more that you model. The brain will kind of automatically start thinking in terms of how things should really look in that. But you can see already, just in our beginning of our latest little section, how much he's starting to change already. So let's just finish up that bottom there, right here. So we can actually just duplicate this once again. And we're just going to cut this up, just like we did. We're just going to detach. And all we're going to do for this little section here, like I say, this will change once we start putting more and more detail in. I want to make sure that I see and I capture those little ridges in our final model. So I'm just going to grab the hulls on the outside. I'm not going to move anything. See, I'm just going to separate them a little bit more. So this can be kind of like, I'm kind of thinking of like a really tight little piece of plate, or even leather armor or something like that. Just you really want to mimic what you see in your image plane as much as you can. So you can see I'm just using holes, and I'm just kind of pushing there, and nothing really changes, other than when you start getting into the cramped little area in the back there. So you can just pop that little guy back up. So we can move this whole section back into position now. And just like we did before, we're going to make it a little wider. Just a little bit, just so that we can see that there is geometry underneath. And that'll become really apparent once we put some actual edge work in there. So now that we made that a little wider, we need to make that big fender here, top fender, a little wider as well. Let's grab some of those little guys and just pull that out. Alright. So this would make a really good low polygon game model right now too. You can see that the geometry is going to be really low, and you got pretty much everything there. So I'm going to save really quick. This is, I think, our third part. So I'm just going to hit 3. It's always good to save every once in a while, just in case disaster happens and for some reason your computer locks up. Now the other thing I'm going to do right now is I want to make sure that I change where this leg is here, because he's a little bit too far forward. If you see, he's on the second little piece of plate or little ridge. So I'm just going to move him back. And I want to kind of keep him, this is why wireframe is really good, kind of right where you see that horizontal line there, or vertical line, and horizontal. I want to kind of keep that in the middle. You can do the same thing for the back little guy too. Just going to kind of bring that into about there. So that's good. Quite happy with that so far. So again, we're going to build all the inner workings later on. We'll probably just make something that looks like there's some gears or something in there just to save time. Alright, so let's get into building that looks like this front part here, which helps hold or support the gears as well. So we can actually probably get away with just duplicating. Let's see if this will work. Sometimes you build something that you can change really easy and it works for some other stuff. So we're going to duplicate this, and we're just going to kind of pull this up into position. We're going to rotate it a couple different ways here. Let's see if we can get anything that's going to be usable for us. So something like that. And I'm going to make it much bigger. See this, how this kind of looks like it shoots off here and then comes around. So select this area and pull that right up, and then we're going to make it much bigger. Scale. This is going to come down. Again, we can scale it and then move it over. Again, this is all stuff you guys will get much better at the more you model, because you've worked with geometry for a long time. You kind of can see things that, hey, that'll work for that, and it'll save you a little bit of time here and there. Let's kind of come down. I'm going to make sure that that's kind of the same width as that area there. And you just straighten that up by using our scale tool. Let's just again see where that's popping out. So I'm just going to actually try to come down a little bit more. Make it a little bit skinnier. So I want it to hit that fender. So this is going to pop out more, I think. This guy comes out here. The other thing you want to keep in mind always is how things are going to work. As well. Move that little part of the fender back just a little. In this area, we can shape a little bit differently, but we'll come back to that. Right now, you just kind of want to get that basic shape that it looks like is happening there. We can Control G, duplicate over. And go to the back part that we just created. And I'm going to make sure that some of these guys are straight for now. I want something that looks very similar to that. And duplicate over. So we have our kind of a little bit of suspension built in there. It's very hard to see what exactly is happening with this part. It looks like this part is, looks like it attaches from there, but if you look at it from a different way, it looks like it attaches there. So again, we're just going to kind of use our artistic freedom there and just kind of build something that'll work for us. Artistic license. So I'm just going to make this guy a little bit smaller now underneath. You can see those ridges. And we're going to go to the midsection. Turn on, or actually we're going to cut out the top there. Just delete that all together. Alright. So in the last little bit of this section, what we're going to do is we're going to start doing some converting. And the main thing I want to convert is the chest area here. Because I need to make sure that I'm going to have this nice little area to be able to cut out with. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to add a couple isoparms right here, just on the one side, because we're only going to model on one side. If your geometry is symmetrical, do all your work on one side, you can duplicate it over. It saves you a lot of time and a lot of frustration. So I'm just adding 2 isoparms to that side. Now I'm going to cut my chest here in half. So I'm just going to go detach. When you're doing it on an end sweep, you have to do it twice for some strange reason. And I'm just going to delete that old half. Right click, I'm going to make a new isoparm right about here because I want to have the makings of an edge. I'm going to use a bit. Again, insert. And we are ready to do our first conversion into polygons. Add one more line there. So under modify, we're going to go to convert where it says NURBS to polygons. You're going to go to your option box. And you're going to make sure that you have control points selected. If you don't have control points when you go into the polygon or you convert into a polygon, your geometry will get a little bit higher and you don't want that. So that's always something to be aware of. So just make sure that control points are on and you're going to hit apply. And you can see that we have 2 pieces of geometry now. We have a polygon which is faceted. You can see all the little corners there are a little bit sharper. Each face has a little vertex that kind of pops out. So I'm just going to move that back into position. Now I'm going to go to my back, and this is also important as well. I want to get rid of some of these lines. So right now, instead of vertex, we're going to select our edges. We're going to select them, and we're going to make sure that this geometry is a lot cleaner. If you can work with quads, always do it. Quads are always the best. Even in game engines, most of the game engines now are starting to be able to handle quads, or they'll be able to change them into tries for you guys as well. So we're going to grab some of these new tools here that we haven't used before. We're going to use our new method called Split Polygon Tool. What this tool allows me to do is draw and have freedom of where I want to put some new edges. So I'm going to bring this first one down. You see how I'm starting to keep four-sided faces? So I'm going to go to here next. One second. Let's draw from here down to there now. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. If I just do this guy over to here, you can see now that everybody should be 4. And we'll smooth this out later on. But he has stuff coming out his back, so that'll help us. But you can see how much nicer and cleaner this is from where we were. So I'm able to go into my bottom area now of my chest, and I'm going to create where you see that big edge. Before I do that, I want to add one more line. So this is going to be good practice. We're going to turn on our X-ray, to grab our split polygon tool, and I'm just going to go up around this area here, and it'll become clear in a second why I did that. So I want to make sure that I have a little bit of an oval shape to the overall chest area, as well as the opening down here. So I can right click, we're going to select faces this time. We're just going to select these 4 faces. Just those little guys. If you're having a hard time, just hit your X-ray button. And the reason why I put that line in there, see how I can pull this out? And I can start forming it a little closer. To a nice kind of like oval egg shape, where this metal part of this, say, torso is coming out from. Alright, so let's go into our front view. And we know that this comes down quite a bit now. Remember how I said don't worry about that earlier on? That's why, because we can just move all of this stuff down now in polygon form. And we can start changing to a subdivision, which will help even more. Now the one thing I don't like here on the polygon, see how we've got some messy edges there? I don't like how close they are. So we're going to grab our split polygon. Once again, we're going to go right around here. We're going to make sure that this edge is going to be really nice and smooth for us. So I'm just going to go around the bottom of the edge here. Like that. I'm going to move this little guy back up. You want to keep that egg shape. Now we're going to do a new operation that we haven't used in the tutorial yet because we've switched to polygons. We're going to merge these guys together. So under Edit Mesh, you're going to find Merge, which is almost near the bottom. You're going to find the option box, and this is again just for the new users. I keep mine very high. I think default is 0.1. The higher you have means the more space between them that they'll merge up. So I'm just going to hit Apply, see that they collapse together. I'm just getting rid of those 3-sided faces. Like that. And again, it just looks a little nicer. It's going to have a nicer effect when we convert, which is what we're going to do now for the first time. I'm going to convert into a subdivision. So I'm going to go Edit, Delete by Type History. I'm at my lowest base mesh. And I'm going to go Modify, Convert, Polygons to Subds, Option Box. Again, I keep mine very high. I think the base is 1000. For usually low polygon meshes or medium size, 1000 is fine. When you start getting into really high res stuff, sometimes you have to bump that up. But for this little guy, this should be fine. I'm just going to hit Apply. And you can see that it shifts again. Now it kind of looks more like it did when it was nerves. The reason why subdivisions are so cool is that they even pull and work like nerves. So instead of just going to face like when you're trying to move and adjust a polygon, these little guys, they have a drop-off rate which kind of pulls here and there. So I'm just going to move that up. You see how I'm kind of kitty cornering it into the stomach a bit, or into the diaphragm. And the reason why I did that is so that we can start creating that illusion that there's two pieces of metal like joining in. So when we want to convert back into a regular polygon, there's this one setting I want everybody to make sure that they have. We're going to go convert polygon or sub-Ds to polygons options, and make sure that you have vertices selected. That just means that it'll go back to your lowest base mesh. If you have adaptive, sometimes your mesh gets a little bit higher, so you don't want that. So I'm just going to hit apply. You can see it goes right back to where you want it. Got a little problem back here. Now, if you have a problem when we were in subdivisions and it looks really nasty looking, see how it looks really nasty? That means those vertices weren't merged. So we're just going to do that real quick just to clean that little guy up. So I'm just going to merge them up really fast. You can see it's much cleaner in the back now. Again, we'll change this all up later on. So if you want to see what this looks like as a whole again, you're going to go duplicate special. If it's straight down the center, modify free transformation, make sure all your rotations of that are set back to default, and duplicate special. And there you have makings of our inner head here, where our head sticks out from. Again, that looks a little bit big. So we can grab the vertex on both sides. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't when you select them both. You can grab your lasso tool here and just select them all. And scale it in a little. Again, we need to do some fine tune. See how this area is out, pushed in a little bit too much. So just pop it back out. This is all stuff we can play around with after. And in this area, it's not quite round enough for my liking. So I'm going to grab it and round it off a bit. You can put some extra lines in there after, but you can kind of see what I was up to. So that'll pretty much do it for this section. In the next section, we're just going to keep continuing, starting to convert most of our geometry, and you'll start seeing details start to emerge here and there. And then once we got most of the detail on the body, the hands and the arms are kind of like a separate little model because there's a lot going on in just that little space, and we'll kind of do a little bit of the nerves again and then convert and things like that. So again, I hope you guys are learning a lot, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Have fun.